Yo guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. I'm recording this video right before heading to the gym where I will take most, if not all, of my sets to failure. It's a pull workout today. Then I'm going to train some clients that don't necessarily have to take most of their sets to failure. They're not quite that advanced, not quite there yet. But I want to talk about why I think training to failure is superior, both for training reasons but for some other reasons as well. So my training practice, not even my training practice, the process that I practice for my life is something I call holistic bodybuilding, meaning I am a bodybuilding bro. I am someone that likes to get jacked and stacked, sculpt a good physique just because it's fun and looks cool, treating yourself like a piece of art like that. But it's not my only priority with my training. I also want to get stronger at certain movements. I might want to learn certain skills, and I don't ever want aesthetics to come at the price of function, a body that looks good on the outside but is all stiff and achy on the inside, because that's a mistake I made earlier on in my training career when I just didn't know as much about training and how the body works. But I also use my training practice as a means of self-development overall, because you do get other things out of your training than these purely, you get stronger, you look better, certain health markers improve. Great, of course, but there are other things that will carry over to other areas of your life. And you see, the process for how you go about improving in the gym, it's quite straightforward. You have a program, you have exercises, sets and reps, you have to stay consistent and progressively overload. And some other things you want to improve about yourself, they might not seem as straightforward, but when you use metaphors from the gym, you can often see that it's the same things that apply. In order to improve at anything, you need to consistently try to do that. You need to use progressive overload, challenge yourself more over time. You need to work your weaknesses, not just the things you're already good at, and so on. So I'll start by talking about the training things and then go into some of the other things. So, well, first of all, why I make this video is because there's a lot of content creators, coaches and trainers that kind of talk against training to failure. They give it a bad rap. And first of all, I just don't think that's what most people need to hear. Like more advanced people that are really into training at that, they might be, should maybe think about a different approach, because I would never say that it's the only approach. Clearly there are people that train in a different way that have amazing results. It's just that most people don't really need to hear, oh, you don't actually have to train that hard. They're probably not training hard enough already as it is, But then there are some, in my opinion, unique benefits to training to failure that these people that preach a different approach don't never really bring up. So I actually started training to failure way earlier than I had to, and it was actually kind of out of laziness. It might sound strange, training hard out of laziness, but I was not fit. I found training very difficult either way, so I figured I'm not going to waste my time doing something that isn't enough, so I better just take everything to failure. And that just sort of became my standard, and I now see why I like it so much. Like, first of all, one thing, you always know that you must be doing enough. If you attempt to do as many reps as you possibly could, and you fail to do one, you know that I could not have done this. Must have been enough to get results, right? Another thing about that, when you always do as much as you can, tracking progress is going to be very, very clear. If I do a dumbbell press and I fail at the 10th rep, well, I know very well that I did all I could, and if I get more than 10 reps the next time, I know I'm making progress, right? But then it's also just that I very well understand that you don't have to take everything to failure, especially on big compound exercises, squats, deadlift especially, I would say. I don't even do that, But I think, especially as a natural lifter who doesn't get any, naturally elevated testosterone hormones and protein synthesis, I think there comes a point where, at least on these isolated movements, like if you want to tap in and make the body adapt at a certain point, you really need to hit your very threshold, even go beyond failure and some things. I think a reason that I have it doesn't show as much here, but I have quite big round shoulders is because I've always smashed my lateral raise exercises. If I do dumbbells, I rep out partials when I can't go all the way, until it just burns. I've done cable lateral raises where I will, at least on the last set after failing, I will drop the weight and do drop sets, and I feel like that's the reason. I just don't see that if I would do lateral raises and I do until I think I could do 2 more but I stop, it just seems like a warm-up, at least when you've gotten quite advanced, right? So I think there are many benefits to training to failure for purely for this reason. But I will say, of course, that as long as you train hard enough and do enough volume, and you can see that progressive overload is happening, that you can consistently make progress, well, that's hard enough. But the thing, when we're going to talk about the other things, something I really, really like about training to failure, I think sometimes when this discussion is ongoing, we're kind of framing it as if, well, training is all we're talking about. But many of us, we can enjoy training, want to get stronger, want to get muscular, but we want, while we try to dial things in to make that happen, we have other things that we want to improve, or a kind of person we want to become too, right? And so I think training to failure is a great practice for just discipline and being able to push through, challenges and pain. When your body is screaming at you to stop, using your mind to say, no, let's keep going, or even your mind, when your mind tells you to stop, that higher self is pushing beyond. When you're training to failure a lot, you're training your ability to really exert yourself, to really push through, even when you don't have to, because that's the thing with humans, right? It's the reason training hard and stuff. Why it's hard for us is because we often don't necessarily have to do. Like, it will be beneficial for us, but it's not like you die if you don't do it. But we can often, that kind of story where a mom can suddenly tap into some hidden strength and lift the car when her child is beneath it. I don't know if that's true or not, but you see. Now, when you train like this, you're training your ability to do a lot of things, not just because you have to, but because you want to. Even when it's tough and there's a lot of resistance, you're training your ability to just push through discomfort like that. So training to failure can actually be compared to something like cold exposure, because that's also a thing that might have some health benefits on the paper, but for me it's never been the main thing. It's the stress resistance and your ability to sit through discomfort and control yourself. It's a practice in stoicism, really, So, and another training benefit, by the way, that should be said, that even if you're someone that's going to take an approach where you don't train to failure, you have to know what training to failure feels like, because that's a common thing. People think, when they never train to failure, they think they're training harder than they are. But when you push them to failure, they had a lot more to give than they thought, and that would mean that what they were previously doing just wasn't enough to improve. And one thing I'll say, when you push a lot of things to failure, you get to know your body so well, and everything that is not failure becomes kind of like, it's not that big of a deal. I don't take everything to failure, especially not compounds. Like I said, squats and deadlift variations is something, I might take one set where I think I couldn't have done one more rep. I would never fail, something like that. But on some other exercise, like a bench press, because of the way I've trained, I can train to 0 reps in reserve. So I will take most my sets to either failure or 0 reps in reserve, because I trained so much to failure. I can tell, I know what it feels like. So on my bench press, I always know if I have one more rep to give, and I know after one rep I shouldn't go for the next. So yeah, you get to know your body extremely well when you train to failure, but it's also that everything that isn't failure is just kind of like, I did a bench press, incline bench press yesterday. It's like, yeah, those last few reps are grinding and stuff, and I'm making faces, but then as soon as I rack the bar, it's kind of like, okay, and how are you? What's up? You don't really get that affected by it. And it builds toughness. It builds toughness, resilience, both in your mind, like I talked about, that you're just training your ability to push through discomfort and be fine with it. But actually, your body becomes very anti-fragile. I find it very funny. Because I remember, I see when I train people how tough, how exhausted they are during the workouts. And for myself, when I smash a set, it's tough during certain exercises, especially bigger movements like a squat or something that also kind of raises your pulse, and that you're kind of exhausted after a set. But many exercises, it's kind of like when that burning sensation is over and you re-rack the weight or drop the cable or whatever it is, it's kind of like, okay, I'll just wait a bit to recharge my batteries for the next set. So yeah, guys, those are the many reasons I think training to failure is superior. But I say superior for the kinds of goals that I have. I would never argue with someone that has another approach and clearly is making good progress, But I wanted to give my perspective and see that even if you're someone that really loves training and you want to improve everything on that, there can still be reasons to, even if you somehow thought that not training to failure is optimal, can you see that maybe you could get the kinds of results you want out of your training skills and get some other things out of it as well? And I think for us that we're not going to compete in bodybuilding or a strength sport, and that we should be using our training practice as something more holistic. So yeah, guys, please like and leave a comment. Tell me your input, your experience with training to failure or not. I love to hear everything. If you want to, train to failure, if you're going to get jacked and stacked, burn some fat, build some muscle, and improve yourself holistically, you can reach out to me for coaching on Instagram or email me, and I'll get back to you with my different options for that. Consider becoming a member just to support me and the channel. It's very much appreciated. And please subscribe for more content about fitness, fasting, losing weight, building a muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys. Train to failure, not only because it's good for your training, because it's good for you. Peace.